All right, here we go. It's a brand new episode 85 of the Aji's podcast. Jason Martinez and H. Mays. We say H.
Yeah. Did you see there was someone on Twitter? I should actually have his name up here, but he evidently stumbled across somebody talking about our podcast last week with Johnny Marks and made mention that he didn't even know that you and I were doing a podcast. Yet he follows both of us on Twitter. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, how have you not know? I mean, these videos they sit up there, I rebroadcast them.
Right.
You got your head buried in your ass or what?
I don't know. I mean, I know yours is in a hockey bag, but I mean, this guy, here's his name. Phila 81, Phila 811 actually. He says, generally had no idea that Harry Mays and Jason Mert had a damn podcast.
Yeah, you've been missing out, dude. You got 84 episodes to go back on now, including the first episode we ever did with JDB, with John DeBella.
Yeah, exactly.
He loves their pod.
You ask how I am. I'm miserable because it's we got about an extra 3 or 4 inches of snow outside, and I'm going to have to go shovel and clean off the cars. I hate doing that. And that means that for the next, 3 or 4 days, it's going to be below freezing. Yeah. So this won't melt. Yeah. It's not going to melt until middle of next week when we get back up into the 40s, and I think low 50s, believe it or not, is coming. But right now, this stinks. And I'm actually going to miss parts and maybe all of the NFL action tomorrow because there's a party that I have to attend, my wife's work party. Starts at like 6 o'clock, I think, downtown. So the first game starts at 4:30. So I'm going to have to leave, in the first quarter of that game. Yeah. And then it'll extend way beyond 8 o'clock. So I'm going to miss at least the first half probably of the Niners game.
So won't there be a TV on where you're at though, Harry?
No, I don't know. I don't know that they're going to have TVs on in this place because then what will happen is all the guys like me will be standing in front of the TV, hopefully near the bar, just drinking and not paying attention to anybody else.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want that.
And because of what you've done for a living, you'll be like, what do you think?
Well, yeah.
Institutional inside knowledge.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
You guys go watch the game. I'll watch it when I get home alone.
Right. That's how I like to watch games, alone.
I do too. Yeah. I don't like to be bothered. You know?
But even hockey games, I mean, you're down at the game, so...
Yeah, that's different because I'm there. But no, when I'm at home, I'm in the studio by myself watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. My old lady loves 3 to 4 inches hair. Why do you think she married me?
It's what she's used to.
Yes.
Now, you sent me this goal from the Flyers game last night. And a lot of people are talking about it. Like it was
number one on SportsCenter, Harry.
Really?
On the top 10. Yes.
Wow. They actually talked about hockey?
I don't think they talked about it. They just showed it.
Oh, okay.
Which
is
sort of
like a B-roll.
Which is progress.
Yeah. But it was a spectacular goal. Is this the one where he does like the 360?
Yeah. Let me bring up the one where Jim Jackson made the call because I thought JJ had a great call on it because he picked it up right from coming from zone exit, Harry.
Oh, okay.
It was. So let me grab this.
Let's put it up for the people.
Where is it at? I see all the one.
You sent this to me. I bet you've sent this to 100 people today.
That's the that's the one from the Flyers thing without the play-by-play call.
Oh, okay.
I want to get the one with the play-by-play call to give JJ a little love. I sent him a note today just saying, that was a great call of that goal because he picks it up on the way out of the zone. Let me get it here from Spit.
Look at you, Mr. Company man.
Yeah, well, Harry, you got to do these things sometimes. All right, so let me play this for you because this happened last night, like it was unbelievable. It's just an unbelievable execute. And he's one of those guys that I don't think he knows how good he is. Number one, tip it. And when he's confident, he's got the balls to try things that he probably normally wouldn't try because he's just playing on instinct and not thinking. So here it is right here.
By Hanley misses the target. Picking it up is Owen Tippett, turbocharge time. Tippett spins, backhander, he scores! Somehow, he just one-upped himself from the other night.
So unbelievable, right?
Yeah, it was a spectacular play, and you're right, a good call from JJ.
Turbocharged.
Yeah, turbocharged. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
said this before. I would love to know what it feels like to put on a pair of CCM skates and skate like he does, because he just flies.
Uh-huh.
What that must feel like. But unbelievable goal by Tippett last night, and just insane. The reaction of the crowd there too was awesome.
Yeah, and they whipped that team. Dallas is good.
Yeah, they beat the brakes off them last night. They were out shooting them 23-1 with 14 minutes to go in the second.
Wow. See, when you told me that, I'm thinking, this might be the second of a back-to-back or three games in 4 nights, last game of a road trip. One of those typical scenarios where the other team, the better team, doesn't show up. Yeah, they just doesn't show up. Yeah, schedule loss. But it's not the case. They haven't played since Tuesday night at home, and they don't play tonight. And then so it was the first game of a road trip, I believe, right?
It was first game, and they play Jersey tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, Harry, the great, not Harry, the great Harry Donahue checking in and says that goal was equivalent of a Harry Mays hole-in-one, an all-timer.
Yeah. Well, I only have one of those, so we hope Mr. Tippett gets more spectacular goals.
I used to love listening to Harry Donahue on my way into WI Pay when I was going to Bala or even the Fanatic every day, and get the traffic and transit on the tubes.
The KYW?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
was with Harry last night.
Is that right?
At Lulu Country Club. We were recording some inside golf teed off episodes in front of a live audience. It was a raucous environment.
Wow. Harry is one of the legends of Philadelphia broadcasting, and I spent many a time listening.
No doubt.
To Harry Donahue, one of the greats. And
of course, I did the Temple games with him too for a couple of years. The football games.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Harry Donahue in the booth. Let's go down to the sideline and Harry Mays. Dueling Harrys.
Yes.
Joey B says, Denny Savard spin. Yeah, the Savardian spinorama was that. That looked like old school Denny Savard in that Blackhawk uni.
Wow.
Remember him?
What a call by Joey B.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Fantastic goal.
What next? A Stan Mikita reference?
Wow, that would be great. Or a Tony Esposito reference.
Oh,
Harry.
yeah.
What a goal. They're the Flyers right now have won 6 straight. They've got power play goals in 6 straight games. They're a fucking wagon right now, Harry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it figures that the fact that they're a wagon, our guy Colin Thompson is actually listening live to the broadcast. He is like the biggest Flyers fan on the face of the earth.
Yeah,
he really is. Professional football player, all this great athlete. He loves hockey.
Yeah. At one point, I suggested the Flyers should sign Colin and put him on the power play net front, in the bumper, Harry, as you like to call it. No, Colin was texting me earlier, and he's dead right. He says that they got to sign Tippett, and they do, and the price is only going up. My buddy Raider Frank, I always text him a heads up when we're going to do the pod. So I texted him at 12:40. I go, geez, pod at 1 p.m. today. He goes, thanks for the heads up. Tell Har it's a hockey only show.
Oh.
He's got to be on board with that.
Oh, jeez. Look, Raider Frank. It's January. Let's just calm down. Okay. That's why I tell these Sixer fans when they beat the Denver Nuggets the other night. It was Jokic against Embiid, and everybody's getting excited. I'm like, that's a great win. It's a Tuesday night in January. Everybody just calm down. Okay. Just calm down.
Colin said I'd be dropping the mitts.
Yeah. Imagine cross-checking him in the back.
No, I'm not. I'm stupid, but I'm not dumb. Just unbelievable. Like that place right now, like we saw it with the Sixers, where the Wells Fargo Center kind of became the place to be, right?
Yeah.
It was the place to be. It's becoming that for the Flyers again, too.
It is?
Harry, there's a vibe in the building again. It's alive.
Wow.
Flyers fans are being healed from 4 years of misery.
Well, now, do you think they're being sort of set up to be let down?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because Flyers Daily goes on YouTube now, so people can comment there, and there's video of me doing the podcast. Why? I don't know, but there is. And some guy goes, this team is really fun again, and they're winning and they're playing hard. Is this when they start losing? I'm enjoying it. Now they'll start losing.
That's a great response.
Yeah.
Because we're not even at the All-Star break yet.
No, that's coming up in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
So
When's the
yeah,
trade deadline?
in March, we're still about 45, 48 days
Oh,
from the
okay.
trade deadline. Yeah,
Okay.
I
And you
think it's
don't really anticipate them doing much, right?
not adding.
Yeah.
Got to subtract because you got Drysdale, and now you have too many blue liners. So got to subtract somebody. Probably Sean Walker. Maybe you can parlay that into a first round pick.
Now here we go, Justin. January is prime hockey season, Harry. Come on, Bo. You don't want to take a trip to the Peg.
They were just there.
I'm living in the Peg right now. What are you talking about, Justin? We are living in Winnipeg, right here in Wayne.
Trust me, you are not living in Winnipeg. So they were there last Saturday night. And they beat Winnipeg, who's the best team in the league, by the way. They beat them 2-0, and the Flyers were on a back-to-back. Winnipeg was not on a back-to-back.
Now, was the goalie? What did they use? Different goalies from night to night, or was it the same?
It was Ayerson played the backup, and got his third goose egg of the year.
Oh,
he played last night too. So they're kind of alternating right now because they're both playing really well. But so I had to tape torts for Hockey and Hounds on Sunday when they flew from the Peg to St. Louis, and it was subarctic in the Peg, and we got done taping the Hockey and Hounds interview, and I'm talking to Torts like on StreamYard, not recording, and he's like, I am never going back to Winnipeg. He said it was so cold. He goes, the next time we go, I'm getting suspended.
Oh, wow.
I go, what are you going to do to get suspended? He goes, I'll figure that out. But he said, I am not going back to Winnipeg.
See? Told you, it's all about the Peg.
Yes. So it's been unbelievable. It's been fun. Thank God, because I couldn't have gone through another season like the last few. I mean, just I do this daily podcast, and I'm going, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is just miserable. Everybody is miserable and angry, no hope. But that's changed a ton for this team. So it's been great to see.
That's
good. Players
good.
like Tippett are a big part of it in the goaltending, and I think Torts has been a huge.
I love the coach.
Yeah,
and I mean, I don't know it or follow it the way you guys do, and but it just seems like he is getting so much more out of this roster than really we deserve.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it too is pushing guys to go beyond where they thought they were. To play. It's not because it's because of he's pushing them, but it's also because guys are realizing talent and developing. And when that happens, and everybody gets better, by proxy, the team gets better. And then you get a guy like Couturier back, who's basically been the same Sean Couturier he was missing 21 months of hockey.
Yeah.
It's north of 30 too, mind you, which is crazy. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank God.
I was thinking of Torts the other day. I don't know if you saw this video. I don't have it, but Todd Bowles, of course, the head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that we have to talk about them disposing of the Eagles here in a bit. But he was being interviewed like a day or two later by Tampa media. I think it was like Monday or no, the game was Monday. So this must have been on Tuesday. About the upcoming game against the Detroit Lions. And this reporter, I don't know who the reporter was. I don't know if they were a sports person or if they were just a general reporter sent there to cover the press conference. And typically if that happens, if they're not a sports reporter, they don't really ask any questions. They just grab the audio and go. Right.
Yeah.
And they pull up the video and use it for the 5 p.m. newscast or whatever, but they don't ask any questions. This reporter assumed the weather change, asked about, playing in the cold temperatures of Detroit. And Bowles is looking out there. He goes, they play indoors. and basically they have played indoors since the late 70s.
Pontiac Dome.
With the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan, where they held the 1981, I believe it was, Super Bowl, which was a gift to Detroit after they built the dome. So the late 70s was, the start of them playing indoors. And he was so nice to this part. He didn't torch the person. He didn't make him feel like a total idiot. If that was Tortorella and somebody asked a dumb question like that, what would his reaction have been?
Yeah, he's got no patience for it. When you get him, he's interesting because he's either all the way over here or he's all the way over there. If it's after a game and you ask questions, if you ask a question about the other team leading into a game, he's going to eviscerate. I want to talk about my team.
Okay.
And if you ask a dumb, like Carchidi, when he was on the beat, would ask him about, naming a captain all the
Mhm.
time. And Torts was like, Jesus Christ, Sam, I am not going to talk about this. He would be just apoplectic.
I love that word.
But when you get him in the right spot and the line of questioning he will give you a ton. We see all the highlights of him going with Brooksy, going back and forth and different reporters. And
that was in New York.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, and he crushed San Filippo the other day after the Kevin Hayes thing with Cutter Gauthier.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, is that silly little podcast? Yeah. And he goes, I call bullshit on your report. You'll say you have sore. It was hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't care. It's unbelievable. But let's talk about that football team, Harry, because what Torts is doing with the Flyers is not what Nick Sirianni got done with the Eagles. And they flamed out in historic fashion.
Yeah. I mean,
embarrassing.
32-9. They didn't convert any third downs in the game. And you knew that they were dead when they scored the touchdown and they're going to kick. They kicked the extra point. There's a penalty on Tampa, which moves the ball half the distance to the goal from like the 2 to the 1. And you knew he couldn't resist doing a tush push to get, the 2-point conversion. And they didn't make it.
Yeah.
You knew that we were dead. And then they come out in the second half with their first 2 possessions. If it weren't for a Tampa Bay pass interference penalty, they were 3 and outs.
Oh my God.
I mean, think about we talk about halftime adjustments and all this thing. And, here you go. You're getting the ball second half. The game's like, 17-9, 16-9 or something. We're in the game. Okay. And their first possession is a 3 and out. Second possession, pass interference, which gave them life on a third down. And they were off the field 2-3 plays later. And they were dead. They had nothing.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I know Lurie was meeting with Sirianni today, and when Doug was fired, he wasn't fired immediately.
Correct.
He was fired after his meeting with the owner because the owner was not satisfied.
Right.
With
they had talked about adjusting the staff.
Yeah, the coordinator.
And Doug pushed back on that apparently, and Lurie didn't like that. And a day or two later, he's fired.
Yeah, he was. I mean, this is a guy that won the first Super Bowl for the franchise.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in incredible fashion without a starting quarterback and everything that went with it, the underdog thing.
Yeah, total mess at the number 1 position on the team too. Which didn't do Doug any favors. But yeah. And how many years removed from the Super Bowl was that? 1 or 2 seasons?
2 seasons.
2 seasons.
Yeah. So, remember the next year, Harry, didn't they have the missed catch against the Saints that could have got them to an NFC championship?
I don't remember.
It was Alshon Jeffrey didn't catch that one ball.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, and Sirianni, I mean, I guess he just lost his team. Can you explain it any other way?
I can't. I mean, San Francisco came in. We had been saying each and every week on this very podcast after they'd win that hey man, they didn't play their best football. They still haven't played their best football. They only they haven't given you 4 good quarters. It's been 1 good half, 1 not so good half, but they're finding ways to win games. And we attributed that to being a good team. Like good teams find ways to win, typically when they're not playing their best. But that went on week after week after week. And then they lost to the Jets of all teams. And you're like, well, maybe that was just a hiccup, right? Then the meat of the schedule comes in. They find ways to beat Kansas City and Buffalo. San Francisco came in here and took their soul.
Yeah.
And ever since then, they were just cooked.
And they brought it back to San Francisco so they could not find their soul.
Right. Yeah, they took it with them to the Bay Area.
Yeah, and flushed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I mean, I have a feeling Sirianni will be back.
Yeah, I do too now. I mean, I thought initially that, Lurie typically he thinks of himself as a guy that's sort of ahead of the curve. He wants to sort of be proactive in things. But when you look at where he fired coaches, like they had already, the season before gave you a lot of indications that things weren't quite right. And then the next season, they totally fell apart. And then he fired them. And I'm thinking like, maybe he's learned from that and is like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for this to be a 5-12 year next year. I'm going to nip it now. I'm going to make a change now. And that's what kind of made me think of that, especially with who was out there and who is still out there to be hired. I mean, there's some of the biggest names in the sport. Jim Harbaugh, is still out there. Belichick is still out there. Vrabel is a pretty solid coach. He'd be a guy that would come in here and really, put the foundation back. I mean, he's one of those kind of guys. But I don't think he's going to fire him. I think it's going to be a wholesale thing. We're fixing the coordinator positions and the coach, the position coaches. We're going to get this right. But I think Sirianni will survive.
I think a big element of this that should be considered is the Jalen Hurts factor. Can you allow, with what you've committed to him at this point, and the performances this year, they were nothing like last year, Harry. And can you afford to have another season of subpar or regressive play for the quarterback and bringing the coach back? Those two do not seem like they were on the same page. Hurts did not give him a glowing, reply about his job security after the loss against Tampa.
I don't think he glows about anything, to be honest.
No,
with you.
I agree.
That's just his personality, which some people have a hard time with. Not me, but you mentioned him. Yeah, he did quote unquote regress. But I think he's been hurt most of the season. To be fair,
too. Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of cleanup in that knee that takes place here before too long. I don't think he was right, because a big component of what he brought to the table was his legs, and I'm not just talking the tush push. I mean, he'd make plays out of the pocket with his legs, and he wasn't doing that. And I think the reason is because his knee is not right.
Yeah, if it's not strong enough, he's not going to be able to get the right amount on the throws and not have the confidence in it as
they became so predictable on offense, though. My God.
That's the biggest problem. Like from Christian McCaffrey going way back, saying we knew exactly what they were going to run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, predictability for a defense is like heaven.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to do, and you can just load up and stop it.
And then you heard the Bosa comments after the game, which we talked about at the time. Even though he didn't make any big plays, Lane Johnson really kept him in check. But he said, I think we put out the blueprint. And now you start looking back on what happened after that game. Maybe there was some truth to that.
Yeah, there absolutely was. And, all the warning signs were there for us. But like you said, you got to give the team the benefit of the doubt when they went to the Super Bowl. And there's no such thing as, a bad win in the NFL because there's just not enough games to have that.
Right.
But I think it's going to be really interesting. There's no chance they hire Belichick because Howie's not going to put himself back in the jockstrap closet again. Like what happened with Chip.
Yeah. No, you're right. But it would be interesting, though, because what side of the ball needs the most work? The defense. Well, the defense.
Yeah.
And you could trust him to come in here and fix this defense. At least I would. And if he gets the right, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, that would be an interesting pair. But I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I don't think Lurie goes for guys like that. Like Colin says, the last 5 coaches that Lurie have hired have all been first-time NFL head coaches. Going back to Ray Rhodes, then Andy, obviously, Chip, Doug, and Nick Sirianni. So, and Harry Donahue brings up a great point, because what coach in the sports has more control over a game's outcome? Football, baseball, hoops, or hockey? I would say it's football because they're the play caller.
Yeah, I think it's football. Yeah.
Yep. I think in those other sports, like in hoops, you got to know when to call the timeout, strategic situations.
Give me an out of bounds play every once in a while.
Yeah. But in those flow sports like that, you let them play. And baseball, I think there's a lot in baseball too, because know when to get a certain pitcher in, double switch, all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a big element of that. Have we seen the last now of Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham?
I think Jason Kelce. I think the other two are signed for next season. Both around the same cap number. I think it's like $12 to $14 million a piece, which isn't terrible. I think Brandon Graham wants to come back. He wants to sort of make it a swan song year. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them are back.
Okay.
Yeah, but Kelce, I think, is gone.
Yeah, he hasn't announced it yet. Yeah. And there were some reports that he was going to, but I think it is done for him. And I've determined that he is not allowed to leave the city of Philadelphia as a resident, whether he retires or not. He needs to remain here. He is now a lifetime Philadelphian.
Yeah.
He is not from Cincinnati anymore.
He could end up being, part of a radio show at some point on a certain sports network, which wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
As like a part-time contributor, maybe a 2-3 day a week deal.
On Pat McAfee, Harry?
No. I'm talking here in Philadelphia.
Oh, here in well, they already
Yeah.
filled the void, as at Ruin Tomorrow points out. Joe Rufino says flat brim Brett comes back. Philly radio takes another step back.
Wow.
So Brett, of course, is Brett Eskin, which Spike Eskin, obviously the son of Howard Eskin. He has now filled the Johnny Marks chair at WIP.
Yeah, I found that
shocked to
pretty
hear that?
interesting. That was shocking because last I knew, he was running the show for Odyssey up in New York, right?
Yes, he was. He was, Harry, I will equate it this way. He was at the top of the sports radio programming mountain.
Hmm.
He was running all operations programming for WFAN,
Mm-hmm.
and he was running the CBS, well, not CBS, but the sports network, the national network.
Okay.
I guess it is CBS Sports.
Yeah,
Network.
it's CBS Sports Radio or whatever.
Yeah, where's our buddy Zach Gelb works, Temple Product.
Mm.
And
Mark's worked there too until last week.
Yeah, he got zipped from there.
Yeah.
For comments made about the employer.
Awesome Broad podcast. I think.
Yeah, he didn't say anything that was a lie either. He just spoke the truth. But they fill that seat, so it's going to be Spike, Ike, and I guess Jack Fritz is kind of like a contributing producer. His role gets upped a little bit, but what do you think of the decision to add Brett Eskin, Spike Eskin to the chair?
Well, I've said this for many years. You could put basically anybody on in a day part on WIP, and they're going to get ratings just because it's WIP. It's sort of like Channel 6 News, in this town. So I was surprised by it because I'm thinking like you're at that position and you want to coming back to Philly was obviously a big thing for him. I mean, he's not a New York guy. He's a Philly guy. Like you said, he loves the Sixers. This is, probably had to take, I mean, what kind of a pay cut do you think that had to be?
Well, one of the reasons Marks left is because it wasn't going to be earth-shattering dough.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, he's getting paid based on New York market. So you're making a lot of dough up there. Yeah.
So
I think
would
there's
imagine
definitely
some step
haircut
down there. Yeah. But I mean, hey, maybe you didn't like it, if you're just like miserable or not happy with what you're doing, even though you're making that money and you see an opportunity where you could get back to your hometown and actually talk sports, which he obviously loves to do. He's a big sports fan, why not?
Yeah. I was shocked by it because I know he had management aspirations and got to the top of the mountain and didn't have the job for very long up in New York, a couple of years. Yeah. I've known Brett for a long time. I worked with him at YSP starting in 1999. He and I were on the air staff at the Rock Station, Harry. And so I've known him a very long time. We've been friends a very long time, but I never thought Spike's biggest strength was being on the air. I don't think that he's incredibly dynamic as an on-air personality. He obviously knows a lot about the industry and how it works, how it's rated and all that stuff. So I was wondering how that dynamic would be as him, I guess, in the one chair kind of directing the show, the structure of the show. Like John Marks, got him in and out of breaks, in and out of calls. He has to have the timing of the show and the rhythm of it in mind. And I don't know that.
Oh, so you don't think that's going to be Fritz's role where he just sort of sets them up and then let those two guys?
Maybe, but I mean, Fritz is also pretty young in the industry. I think he needs more experience in that, but I don't know. But to your point, they're going to get ratings of course. And because the Fanatic refuses to try and get ratings.
Well, that's the other thing that struck me about this. They fixed their hole, if you will.
All 3 shows.
But they did it within 30 days for this one. Okay.
Yeah.
This was basically done. Okay. And just waiting to announce it maybe at the right time, whatever it is. When you look at the other place, they're still with holes and lost. When did Gargano get whacked? In October?
Yeah, I think it was.
I mean, think about that. We're almost like 3 months.
Beginning of October it was.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks into the Eagles season. Yeah.
And nothing's happening.
No, and Andrew's still doing the show, but is it the Andrew Salchuna show?
And maybe it ends up being his show. I don't know, but
yeah,
I mean, are they a finished product?
Shit, or get off the pot. I mean, do something here. And I mean, in the station's getting bludgeoned. It's like you look at it and you go, WIP had to turn over the morning show that was there for 30 plus years.
Yep. Morning,
Right.
midday show is overturned.
And midday,
because
yep.
the midday show went to the morning show. So they had to
Bingo.
fill that hole. Boom, they do it.
With
And
Hugh and
now
Gilio.
Mark's leaving, created another hole, and they fixed that within, 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, it's telling.
Yeah.
And it makes you go, okay, I don't wonder why one station's beating the other at this point. I was shocked by the hire. I'm stunned by it. And well, best of luck to Spike. And I guess good to have him back. And I know he does the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, which is a monster. He created some, with the processors and all that thing. And so they have a huge audience. So very stunning to see that for sure. So what else do you want to get to here on this episode? Do we have a ton to get to today, really? I got something for you.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, it was an odd geez, and I was saying it.
Oh, you were in the hospital this week. That's what
I wasn't, but
but you were there.
Yeah, I was riding co-pilot. I was riding shotgun, Harry. So I guess it was Monday evening at or maybe it was even Sunday. I can't remember. I'm dizzy.
Well, Monday evening was the Eagles game.
Okay, so yeah, so then it was Monday evening. My son comes to me and goes, "Dad, my stomach really hurts. Like I'm having stabbing pains." So I'm like, all right, well, just, I showed him some stretches to do, if he's got a gas bubble in there or whatever. And he went to bed and slept.
You got a gas bubble stretch?
Yeah. It's like yoga type things.
Do you care to demonstrate for the people? I'm interested in this.
Nah, I don't have my yoga pants on there. And nobody needs to see that.
You got yoga pants?
No. Oh. Thank goodness. But so he goes to sleep and he wakes up on Tuesday and he's just getting sick all day. Can't stop. I mean, every
throwing
minutes.
Up all the time, or
and just awful, not cramps, but a stabbing pain, just to the right of his belly button. So I take him to his pediatrician around 2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, and they gave him a flu test there, and they just kind of checked them out, and they're like, you can just wait a little bit, and if it gets worse, you should go to the ER. So he kind of started feeling better. Ange texted me and was like, I think he's feeling better. He slept for 2.5 hours and didn't get sick. And then he woke up and started going again. And he was in excruciating pain. He's not one to fake it. He's not that kind of kid.
He's a hockey player.
Yeah. And he couldn't stand up straight. So at 11 o'clock at night, I took him to the ER.
Fun. And
we get there and they're like, it's going to end up being we're about 6 hours out from seeing a doctor at this point. And so he's like, I don't want to stay. So I went out in the waiting room. I'm like, look, I'm not making this decision for you. You're 17. You're old enough to advocate for yourself and make the decision on what you think. I don't know what you're feeling.
Right.
In your stomach. I don't know. So we sat there for 15 minutes and he's puking in the fucking waiting room into a bag.
Oh, the bag.
Yeah. So eventually he's like, I'm going to stay. So he stays, they give him blood work, they do the cat scan, the dog scan, all that stuff. They think it's his appendix, and scan comes back totally clear. All the organs, every gallbladder, all that shit's working great. And
so it wasn't an appendicitis.
It was not. And he was so relieved because he thought he was going to have surgery. It would have been emergency surgery. He'd done it right away.
Yeah, it's in and out. Boom, boom.
Yeah, it's laparoscopic. But him. He's thinking, everything they did when they were putting is it going to hurt? They're like, we're going to give you some anti-nausea medicine right now. He's like, is it going to hurt? And it's literally just putting something in the IV. He's never gone through it. So we're there all night. And finally, after his second bag of IV and his second shot of morphine, he started getting that completely give to a 17-year-old.
Wow.
And the
Did
color
Dad get any?
No, I was
Dad was requesting
me
some
morphine. Can I get an IV, please? And he started obviously making huge steps to feeling better. He was obviously dehydrated, and they gave him a shot of Toradol.
Oh yeah. And
then they're like, all right, we're going to start introducing ice chips, and then
that's a serious painkiller too.
Well, that's more for inflammation and stuff.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but so they gave him all that, and they're like, we're going to start this now. It's 5:30 a.m. Or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've been there all night, and I can't sleep. I'm sitting on a chair, in this fucking ER bay. And they're like, well, we'll give them ice chips and then we'll monitor them for an hour or two. I go, no, we're done. Start the paperwork. We're out of here.
So was the old lady at home? It was just you?
So the old lady, when I left, goes, call me and I can take like the second half and relieve you.
Oh, like a shift.
Yeah. I tried calling her at 4:30. Nothing. I got ugats. Finally, she texted me at 5:30 and goes, oh my God, I fell asleep and I thought he was still next to me in bed. I totally forgot you guys were there. I go, yeah, I noticed. She's like, well, I can come now. I'm like, well, don't come now. I've already got the paperwork for discharge, and that takes like an hour and a half. Then they got the prescription wrong for his medicine. They sent it to North Carolina. They had 20 more minutes to fix that. I get home at 7 a.m.
Yeah, it takes forever to get out of there.
Oh,
you never notice, like even when they start the process, you're thinking like, oh, I'm putting my clothes back on, whatever. They took the IV out of my arm. You still got an hour.
Yeah, hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It was a long, long night. But next day, he's feeling good. Started eating food again. He's out shoveling snow today to make some dough.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, it was freaky though. Like thinking, like, oh man, what if his appendix burst? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's dangerous. So I'm glad he's okay. But it was one long ass night.
Wow. Now we got Joey B on a morphine rabbit hole here.
He goes
The Deep, the movie The Deep with Nick Nolte. I never saw that.
Me neither.
Wasn't there a pretty hot woman in that
Jacqueline
movie?
Bisset.
That's right. That's the way. I don't know it for Nick Nolte. I know it because of Jacqueline Bisset.
Yeah. Unreal. One last thing I want to get to. You sent me this this audio of Chuck from Mount Airy. Now he F-bombed Jack Fritz.
Oh yeah, that was the day after the Eagles game. I think it was a Tuesday show.
Yeah.
And I happened to be listening a little bit in the car. I was headed to the dentist, and I heard this.
So apparently the next day, Kyle Pagan and the guys over at Crossing Broadcast got Chuck on their show to talk about it.
Right.
And I want to play this.
About it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it. So here was Chuck from Mount Airy explaining the situation on Crossing Broadcast.
I want everybody to listen. You know, Jack kept cutting me off because I guess he didn't know how to shut up and let Chuck from Mount Airy speak. I guess he forgot how the ratings shot sky high in WIP. Not to toot my own horn, but it's some great callers that call that station that make their job a hell of a lot easier. Believe that.
They have been good to you. Do you feel in hindsight like you should have told Jack to shut the fuck up?
They'd be good to me, but I'll also be good to them. Let's not get this misconstrued. Johnny Marks and Ike Reese show was successful, and it wasn't successful because of Johnny Marks and Ike Reese. Just because they're part of it. It was successful because of the people that actually call up there and make that show what it is.
Oh, wow. So you think the callers are why they're dominating 97.5 right now?
Ain't no doubt about it. Listen, I think the callers are a very integral part into what they do. Trying to make it seem like Chuck from Mount Airy wasn't a big part of what the show is. Or OG Wade wasn't a big part of what the show is. Or Yoshi wasn't a big part of what the show is. Or Mad Mike wasn't a big part of what the show is.
I've heard enough.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even make it through a minute and a half of him talking about it.
Well, yeah, it's funny because
does he get bonused, Harry? You think?
Well, when I listen to a show, if I do listen to a show that has callers, I'll listen to the first 15, 20 minutes, however long the host or hosts go with what they're talking about, and they're setting the table with their agenda, their opinions. And as soon as they go to the phones, I'm out.
Click, gone. Yep.
Click, just like the old PD would say.
Click. I mean, why would you go to a caller when you got Brian Westbrook for an hour, 5 minutes in?
That was Mike.
Yeah,
Mike couldn't resist the phone calls.
He could
because he came from over there.
Yeah,
and it was a different mentality. It's like you're a call operator, a phone operator.
Yeah,
where the callers own the show.
Oh God,
and it's a crutch.
I will tell you that I having been in management and was a data miner, right? Like I would mine the data and match it to what was happening on the air to see when people tuned in and tuned out. We had to think
you could see when meters would drop off or whatever. Yes. You'd match that up to what they were talking about at that very moment.
Like when Ingy would call. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Click. You'd see the meters go away. They would just disappear. In other words, listeners going, I don't need to hear this dipshit. Right? And I guarantee that if I found Chuck from Mount Airy's phone calls, for the most part, it would be erosion of audience.
Yeah.
Look, callers are a part of it, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. There's byplay that happens, but these callers, like these regulars that call every show and multiple times a week,
Mhm.
you are not the show. To
Right.
minimize John and Ike on that show and say that you and the
It's
other,
only successful because of the callers.
that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
utter bullshit.
Yeah.
Total bullshit.
I thought that was funny.
Unbelievable.
But it is, I mean, I'll tell you, from experience, it is nice. And, I'm sure it's a lot more prevalent over there than it was at our place, where you'll just see, 5 minutes into your show, you got 8 lines lit.
Yeah, the board
And
is
as
split up.
soon as you take a guy and he hang up on him, that line rings again. It's a comfort zone for the host to say, hey, you know what? If I run out of a little gas here, I can just go to the phones and we'll run the board and then we'll fill it back up again. And it's like a crutch.
It is.
It is.
It's like gratification that you're getting a response.
Right. People are
So
listening and they want to be involved. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is an absolute safety net because spoken word, you can be sitting, like if you're doing a show by yourself, like when you did Maze to Midnight, you look at the board and there's no calls.
My first 25 minutes were all me.
Yeah.
And then then you're hoping that you get a couple of calls in the next segment and you start rolling it. And that would happen. But that first 25 minutes, coming out of whatever we had on before, I knew that it was all me.
Yeah.
So I had to have some things.
Yeah, you're coming out of a Sixers game when they were tanking, Harry.
Right.
There was 0 listeners to the station at that time.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, you're going, Jesus, am I and there's like tricks you can do. Like I remember when I was at WIP, like in the era of Allen Iverson, if you wanted to make the phone ring, you just mention Iverson. Boom, lights are right up there. It was like a Christmas tree.
Right.
There were certain topics. And like Steve-O, even back in the day, had like the trick, like to get people to call. All the callers hung up during the break.
Right.
No, they didn't. They weren't there. That's a
Right.
That makes people think if I call now, I get on and I have to wait.
Right.
All the callers hung up during the break, Michael. And Mike could be like, no, they didn't. There were none there, Steve.
That's when Bruno, we were at the kitchen bar. I'll never forget it. Let's go to the phones. And I'm pointing to the phone. They're like, there's nobody there. Like we were like 10 minutes into the show. And he had already read the show sheet and he had nothing. Right. So he wants to go to the phones. And I'm pointing like there's nothing here.
There's nobody on the phone.
Then he'd vamp for a little while. And then he go, let's go to the phones. I'm like, dude, I finally said we don't
call Harry. Let's go back to the phones.
It was hilarious. Oh God, I'll never forget it.
So insane. Now there are like some regular callers that you can get entertainment if they
are good if you know how to use them. Yeah.
If they don't stay they don't call so often. If they show up and you can get a lot from them. And let me give you an example, Harry, because when you and I were doing the midday program, we had this call from a regular caller that was turned into a legendary moment, totally unscripted.
Is that Steve?
Steve?
No, I'm sorry. I told my guy. Go ahead, Ryan.
He's got people there. Bern, did you try to climb one of those Crisco'd up greased poles?
I was at the top when they called my name. I said, I'm Bernie from Boomwell. Don't forget it. Because if you do, you ain't allowed in this street no more.
I'm Bernie from Boomwell.
Right. I said, if you forget it, you ain't allowed at my street. I
Who is
it? What's that?
Who is this? Who is this?
Bernie from Boomwell.
You know who I am?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're Bernie from Broomwall.
Who?
You're Bernie?
Huh?
Are you Bernie? I like when you get on the phone because I hardly hear you anymore. People call me, when are you going to get on the phone? I says, every time they push my button, I'm on. I said, I love it, but I don't get enough of it.
Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. What? I'm still here.
So, buddy.
Huh?
All right, Bernie. Thanks for checking in, man. It was an epic call. Hey, Bern.
Listen. I listen every day. I can't get to.
All right. You get the idea.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
I know. That's great.
Oh my God. You and I were sitting there. We're just like, holy cow. He is talking to himself. Unbelievable.
What?
You still there? Yeah, I'm still here. And then he says, he used to always say that. Rest in peace to Birdie. Oh my goodness. So funny. But
oh man.
All right, let's put a bow on it right there. Joe
All
Rafito
right.
goes 3rd times and it still kills. That
Yep.
is one of the fun. I got a text from DeCamera last week asking me to send him the Chinese call that I made as him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He wants to use that on his show.
I don't know if he wants to use it. He can. I don't care. But
You don't care?
no, he could use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a whole new audience needs to hear that fine phone call of me.
Yeah, but you aren't going to get any credit for it.
He'll give me credit.
No, you won't.
You don't think?
Kidding
You
me?
don't think the Deke
He's
is
going to be like
guy?
one of the. He's going to be like one of those rappers back in the day that would sample songs and not give credit before they'd get they'd get in trouble.
This is not me, but a very important distinction is someone impersonating me. We'll rock your calls.
Oh God,
Deke. All right, that's episode 85 of the Odd G's podcast. We'll be back next week. Who knows what the hell we'll be talking about then? But everybody, enjoy the snow, enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week on the Odd G's podcast. Cheers.